which is the organizer of this webinar. As you may know, and some of the speakers are also members of so-called GLOBSEC energy transition team and working group, which is looking at the ways how energy groups in Central and Eastern Europe are transforming themselves into more green and more smart and resilient. So today's discussion is basically about what is the situation in Europe, what are the policies and regulations which will impact energy transition in Central Eastern Europe. Also, of course, we had important events in Brussels over the weekend, approval of the new financial framework for the next 7 years, but also the new generation EU deal, which creates new opportunities in terms of financing of such transition. We have very active European Investment Bank, which has put together different sources and packages of financial assistance to companies in Central Eastern Europe, including in the energy transition. So there is I would say, a very good momentum in terms of policy direction, but also in terms of finances available for such transition. At the same time, we know that Central Eastern Europe is the region which is struggling with the new structure and the new focus of its energy policies and energy, I would say, reality on the ground. Historically, very much fossil fuel based. Moving towards clean energy is something which has not only economic but also social consequences and requires political leadership. So we'd like to use this webinar as a way to bring together people who are in charge of policies, who are driving the regulatory aspects, especially from the European Commission. And I'm very happy that we have with us Vice President of the European Commission, Maroš Šefčovič, who is in charge of interinstitutional relations and foresight, meaning also looking into the strategy of the European Commission and the future of Europe, but also who has huge experience in the energy transition in European Union, and who is also in charge of the European Battery Alliance. Thank you, Maroš, for being with us. I think we will need to later unmute.
Yes, that's happening. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks.
Thank you, Maroš. And we have also Lilyana Pavlova, who is the Vice President of the European Investment Bank. Lilyana, thank you for joining us for this webinar.
Thank you, Vasil, and to all of you for this timely and relevant discussion ahead of us. It's really right momentum for this gathering.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And on the other side, we have so-called discussants, but basically representatives of energy companies from Central Eastern Europe. We have Gabriel Szabo from SLOVNAFT, Juraj Krajcar from the ZSE Energia, which is the distribution company in Slovakia. We have Kamil Čermák, who is from the Czech energy company. Marian Bocek from the InoBat Auto as an innovative company in this area. Tomáš David as vice chairman of the EP Power Europe in the Czech Republic, but actually European and global player. Adam Varga, head of strategy of MVM from Hungary, and Jürgen Knaj, who is from Germany, from the company called Mans, but operating throughout Europe and I would say globally as well. So I think we have an opportunity to have interesting discussion both on the policies, financing, but also looking at how companies which are in the middle of this big energy transformation in Central Eastern Europe, how they see the process, what are the experiences on the ground, what would they need in terms of regulation, in terms of financial support, and hopefully we'll have interesting discussion which will also bring some specific ideas which we can then continue and follow on as part of the GLOBSEC and other activities. So without much more ado, I would like to pass the floor to Vice President Maroš Šefčovič for some introductory remarks, and then to Lilyana Pavlova. Maroš, please, you have the floor, and you have the you have the internet connection.
Yes. Thank you very much, Vasil, dear Lilyana, dear colleagues and friends. I'm actually addressing you today not from the European Commission, but from the European Parliament, because we just started something like 1 hour ago, plenary, where both the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, presented the deal, which was accomplished and reached after really ultra-marathon debate of the EU 27 leaders just last weekend. And I think that the negotiations been very difficult because the expectations been high, because of course the challenges are enormous ahead of the European Union, because we are still fighting the pandemic. We know that the economic consequences follow most probably after the summer, and therefore we wanted to do our utmost that Europe would be ready for this challenge. As you probably know, the figures are very impressive, and yesterday I had the chance to participate in such a transatlantic webinar, and I think the fact that we managed to pour into the economy in the first months of the crisis in different forms through the flexibilization of the state aid, thanks to the great job the EIB was doing already at that time, helping us with different schemes, but also with the new programs like the program which is supporting Kurzarbeit, short-term work in our member states. More than 3 trillion of euros was very impressive figure, and therefore I think we managed kind of to slow down the dramatic consequences of the economic crisis, and now we are actually bringing in really the budget which is transformative in its nature. And I think that thanks to this decisiveness, we are really opening the new chapter in the history of the European Union, new chapter in the integration of the EU. I think that you know the figures quite well. So, but what we are talking is about 1.8 trillion euros to be spent in the course of next 7 to 10 years. And just to bring it a little bit into the closer perspective, as I'm sure all of us are behaving, first you look at the figures, what it means for your own country. So my country, Slovakia, really would benefit by more than 30 billion of euros of the potential investments. In Czech Republic, I just really quickly checked, and you might correct me, but we are talking about more than 50 billion of euros. And I think that these impressive figures, which more or less correlate to the economic situation and the size of population, are extremely impressive for all countries from the Central and Eastern Europe. And therefore, I very much appreciated that we have such a good foresight to actually plan this webinar now, because I think it has proven that we've been optimistic that we would get the deal, and we can really discuss it early on. What does it mean for our region? I think for our region, it means that we have to embrace this twin green and digital transition and add this resilient approach much more than it was until now. Because I think there was very clear decision and unanimous endorsement of the commitment to spend at least 30% of this massive sum of money on the green climate related projects. I think Lilyana in a moment will be speaking about what would be the EIB policy, but there are also very high expectations that also 50% of EIB spending would be actually linked to the green project. So this is a totally different ball game than what we had until, I would say, this MFF and this next generation EU instrument was adopted. What does it mean in practical terms for our governments and for the representatives of the industry in our member states? First and foremost is that we have to immediately start strategizing how we are going to transform the European economy, but I would say more concretely, the economy in our member states. The European Commission expects that by October, they will get the first recovery plans. And the recovery plans should be drafted on the basis of the country-specific recommendation. This is the European lingua, which reflects the need for the structural reforms which been in every member states in one way or another a little bit postponed. So this next generation EU instrument, which is very, very massive, should be used for really making sure that we would finally cover that structural gaps we had in our governance, in our lack of reforms, and we want to use this opportunity to really make the economy in the European Union healthier. So we need to have really strategy, how we want to use the money, what kind of structural reforms we want to do. Of course, the recovery plans should be in link with national energy and climate plans, and I think I know that I'm talking to the very well-informed audience, so we know that these will be the plans, how to achieve our climate targets, how to transform our energy systems, and how really also to reflect that overall climate ambition into our daily work. As of 1st of January, we would like to start also spending on the 7 years budget. And there, I think what would be, of course, very important is to have good projects ready, because you know that especially in Central and Eastern European countries, very often we struggle to absorb this money, to use them efficiently, and to use them in accordance with what the leaders decide should be this paradigm shift from the economies of the past to the economies of the future. That we want to use this crisis to make sure that we are kind of leaping forward, and we are going to make the Europe more green, more digital, and more resilient. And in that respect, we are also going to present, as it was just promised by the President of the Commission to the European Parliament, new sets of the so-called own resources, meaning the ways how we are going to repay that 750 billion loan, which the European Commission is going to raise on the financial markets on behalf of the European Union. So we will propose to our member states and to the national parliaments that we want to introduce the plastic tax on unrecyclable plastics, that we are going to introduce the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which we hope will not only set the right price of carbon in our products, but also will prevent the carbon leakage, which was very dangerous, especially for energy-intensive industries in Europe, which have been pushed to do a lot of reforms to be very environmental conscious, and at the same time, very often through the public procurement, we've been importing cheaper products from the third countries, where simply do not pay so much attention to the carbon footprint of the production and of the product. So we want to level up the playing field, and we want to introduce this carbon adjustment mechanism. We are going to extend the emission trading scheme for aviations, for maritimes, for some other sectors, and we, of course, are in intense discussion within the OECD if it comes to the digital tax. We would like to have a global approach, but if it not work, we will not wait, and we will introduce a digital tax in the European Union. So I would say the setup of this new instrument, also the way how we want to raise the money through these new own resources, is just telling you that this is a process which is very much linked to our overarching goal: green, digital, resilient. And we are also underpinning this approach by new way how we want together with our member states, with the industry, to manage the European industrial policies. And you know that we adopted the new industrial strategy in the spring of this year, where we focused on the key industrial areas. And I'm glad to say that the European Battery Alliance, where many of you are working very, very closely, serving as a kind of inspiration of the blueprint for other alliances to come. We just launched one on the hydrogen, and I hope that in September we will do the same with Alliance for the raw materials, because there we see, and I can compare it, that we are almost as dependent on the Asian countries, especially in China, if it comes to this really raw materials we need for the technologies of the future, as we have been before we started with the energy union, dependent on Russia if it comes to the fossil fuels. So what should be these projects, where the money should go? What would be my recommendation to the industry to focus on? I think everything linked with energy storage, be it batteries, be it hydrogen technologies, everything linked with the smart grids. And here I know that the Czech and Slovak distribution companies started this excellent cross-border cooperation, and they got also very hefty funding from the European Union to promote the projects like that. Charging stations, and I would say everything linked with the infrastructure for the 21st century economy. These are the projects which should be developed, which should be discussed on the national level, which would be then, of course, presented to us in the Commission, and it should be our joint endeavor to make sure that Europe has the infrastructure for the 21st century economy, which should be, and I repeat again, green, digital, and resilient. Just a couple of thoughts on the European Battery Alliance, which somehow was a result of our work and thinking when we've been developing further energy union, and when we presented this huge package on the clean energy for all, we really discovered that the issue in Europe is how we can store the energy, how we can combine better these intermittent sources like wind and solar with the demand for constant energy flows crossing the borders in Europe. And we realized that without storing the energy, without stocking the energy, without developing the new ways how to transport the energy around Europe, we will simply not achieve it. Therefore, the hydrogen, therefore, the interconnectors are so important. And that brought us, of course, to the smart mobility. By 2030, I believe we will have around 70% of the low carbon electricity in our grids. So it brings us in totally different ball games if it comes to the carbon footprint of electric vehicles. And I just simply noticed that we had scooters, buses, and more cars with electric engines, but not coming from Europe, but mostly coming from China. And I think that, and I'm very glad that also car industry realized very quickly that what is the aim of Asian export is not to export the batteries as commodity. They want to export electric cars. And because they've been very well informed about the value that the battery of the car would represent together with software somewhere around 60+% of the overall value of the car. So we moved very quickly, and again, I would like to thank Lilyana, EIB, Andrew McDowell, but I would say the whole managing board for being so supportive for the European Battery Alliance, because I just looked through the new figures. Thanks to that close cooperation, within the last 3 years, we managed to channel into the sector covered by the European Battery Alliance around 200 billion euros. So that's massive mobilization of public and private money. We tested new ways how this financing can help. One was the Norwold, which was, I would say, typical startup going from the PowerPoint to the bookings of the 10 billion of euros of orders of batteries for 2030. But this was also the use of this new instrument, which is called IPCEI, important projects for the common European projects, for common European interest. And we had the first successful one led by France, where 3 billion of the governmental money been matched by the 5 billion of private investment. And we see how this ecosystem is very quickly developing. I spoke with Peter Altmaier, the Minister of Economy of Germany, with whom we would have very intense period because they have a presidency, and he puts the batteries, energy storage very high on the agenda. So we still expect before the end of summer a pre-notification coming from Germany on the IPCEI project, which will probably even more massive and more encompassing than the French-led one. So we have different ways how we can really bring the finances into these areas. And I'm very glad that we are also covering the whole value chain. And what is, I think, very interesting for our participants today is that we are ready to go also into the mining sector. We discovered that we have quite enough lithium in Europe, but we do not have the mines, and we do not have the processing plants, refineries. And we have currently 4 projects which are developing in a very promising way in Czech Republic, in Portugal, in France, in Spain. And if all of them would kick in and be accomplished, so we would be covering 80% of our lithium consumption from our own resources. And I would say the last word, because I know the time is flying, and I'm aware that my speaking time is almost up. The last thing I would say is that we should simply use this opportunity to really leap from what would be traditional black economy into the green one. And I think that this financial bazooka, which was adopted over the weekend, should really help us to point to that direction. We need good projects, we need good management of those projects, and close cooperation between industry, national governments, and the European level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Maroš. It was, I think, very, very useful and important to hear about what is happening at the European level in the, not only in the energy area, but in the process of overall transformation of the European economy towards, as you mentioned, more green, more digital, and more resilient, which is a critical task for us, for the Europeans. We are in a very interesting part of history when even Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of IMF, when we had a webinar about a month ago, she said that she's probably the first head of IMF who would say, spend, 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 but keep your receipts. So we are at the time when we have a lot of resources, financial resources at the European level, global level. Financial markets are still very, I would say, open to spending, but we have to make sure that the money is spent in the right way. And I think, as you pointed out, it's not only about money, it is about structural reforms. It is about making sure that these structural reforms are supported by specific projects also in the energy area. And as you pointed out, projects in the energy storage, in smart grids, in the infrastructure for 21st centuries are all very, very important. Thank you for this. And I would like to move to Lilyana Pavlova, who is Vice President of the European Investment Bank. And Lilyana, I would like to give you the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Basil. Dear Maroš, dear panelists, dear participants, thank you very much. Indeed, as I already said, thank you to GLOBSEC and to all of you who are really organizing this timely discussion, because indeed, after this historic moment of those 4 days of very hard discussions, the deal was achieved. Very important deal and historical decision was achieved, and these are really challenging times for Europe. Our growing economy has slowed down because of COVID, and really we need to recover quickly. And at the same time, recovery focus on recovery should be really not on going back on where we were before the crisis, but really one step ahead. Really being more ambitious, looking forward, and really recovery should be, we all agree, based on new technology, green, digital, and resilient, building definitely on resilience, looking in the future rather than in the past. So I think we all agree that all resources are there, as we all say, we all admit now resources are there, but it's up to us, all of us together, uniting all our efforts, all our expertise, to plan them efficiently, wisely, and really to based on one side on reforms, on the other side thinking on competitiveness of our economies, and thinking on based on technologies and on future, really to think how best to invest, and how to build and how to prepare our plans, and how to prepare sustainable and well-developed projects. So this is the challenge ahead of us. And at the same time, Europe is setting quite an ambitious long-term objectives, long-term goals, specifically really reaching the net zero emissions by 2050. It's quite difficult, not an easy target to achieve. And at the same time, sometimes, and even now, we already hear some doubt whether we can achieve those targets together with COVID challenges and really the outcomes of the COVID crisis. But I think both could be addressed simultaneously, and we could see the crisis, both crises, as an opportunity for all of us. EIB really stands ready to support and to complement all efforts and support recovery, supporting recovery on one side, and really being already a climate bank, supporting really the green and digital transformation as well. We have already announced in April our COVID response package. We do very much support the recovery plan announced and the deal struck on Monday, and at the same time our strong and high commitments on climate action and environmental sustainability are there. Being the largest multilateral financier and really long-term already since 2012 leading climate financier, we're there to support investments. We are already providing for since 2012 sufficient funding in climate and environment, but our long-term objective, being a climate bank, is to invest €1 trillion on climate action and environment in the decade up to 2030, to increase our share of climate action and environmental financing up to 50% of our funding, which is on annual base amounts of something like 63 billion per year. So to reach 50% of that funding, really to be really focused on dedicated to climate action and environment, and really to be fully aligned with Paris Agreement already by the end of this year. This is our primary goal, and we are working very hard achieving this. So starting as of 1st of January next year, all our new operations to be consistent with 1.5 degree scenario. We are adopting we will adopt the EU taxonomy in order to avoid the so-called greenwashing of projects. So any project financed from the bank shall contribute to at least one of the 6 environmental objectives: climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, sustainable protection of water and marine resources, pollution prevention and control, transition to circular economy, protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. And I believe that our CEE region really has a lot to unlock and to explore in that direction. In response to the pandemic, in response to climate change, the bank, not only the bank, the EIB group, representing also including the European Investment Fund, we are all together strengthening our commitment to climate and to environmental sustainability, and really energy sector. It's really at the core of our ambition, because the investment needs in the energy sector are huge. Something like 400 billion per year at EU level. So and we need to completely transform our energy system. So EIB stands ready to complement and to support this transformation of the energy systems of the European Union. And at the same time, we should say that it is particularly important for the CEE countries, where transformation needs are higher and the really investment needs are higher, because the investment effort needed to reduce CO2 emissions in our region, in that region, are higher than in the other countries. So definitely we shall plan, and we are ready to support the region, and we are already doing this for many years from our technical advisory support for Elena, from our Jaspers team in identifying and supporting different projects in energy efficiency, renewable energy, electricity grid project, etc. and etc. As we have already recently, almost 1 year ago, in November last year, adopted our new energy lending policy. We set very clearly our new objectives in the energy lending policy. So we really focus very much our attention really to support more energy efficiency projects, really supporting decarbonization of the energy supply and energy innovation and energy infrastructure, and phasing out our support to fossil fuels as of the end of 2021. At the same time, of course, I should stress that under the current energy lending policy, we can still finance combined heat and power plants operating on natural gas, and rehabilitation of district heating systems using efficient heat production. So there are many projects that we can still finance in practice. However, really the main goal is really supporting renewable energy, really very much supporting development of European Batteries Alliance, like Maroš already mentioned, and really supporting the investments in new technologies, hydrogen development, and etc. A few words about the just transition. Very much supporting the European Commission plan and the just transition mechanism, because really supporting the economies, and really supporting those regions who are and companies and businesses who are facing this uneasy process of transformation. Starting from the process of preparing the territorial concepts and the territorial plans, through the process of identifying very specific and very concrete projects in support of the plans, in order that process to become a very smooth one, as smooth as possible, in supporting the region, really to provide educational support, to provide the necessary infrastructure and transformation of the infrastructure, allowing and providing the necessary employment opportunities for the region. So the European Investment Bank will be present in all three pillars of the just transition mechanism announced by the European Commission. While in pillar 1, which is the Just Transition Fund, we will be present by and available to provide all necessary co-financing. In pillar 2, where we will support through the InvestEU scheme, while in pillar 3 it is completely implemented by the EIB together with the European Commission. Of course, public sector support for the implementation and support of the investments and the loan facility support of public sector transition of the region. So I think we together with each and every member state and each and every region could really together with the support of our experts, our Jaspers teams, so we need to, and we can plan together how best use these plans, these funds, and to maximize the benefit and the benefit of the funding, because it will be very specific and very important period, and we need to focus our attention to vulnerable groups, and really to society, and to really businesses and people living in that region. So EIB has a long track record in supporting just transition project in the region. We have excellent examples in Poland and in other regions. So we stand ready to support all our regions for our expertise. I think we are ready to play our role in the implementation of the modernization fund, in the innovation fund as well. So as I already said in the beginning, funding is there. So it is in our hands really to engage all of us, governments, local authorities, businesses, NGOs, and us, representatives of the different European institutions, really sitting together and making best use of the funds available, so really to achieve our long-term goals and objectives in this challenging period for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vice President. Thank you, Lilyana. I think it was very interesting to hear about how EIB is responding to this major change in the energy sector, but also overall responding to the climate change related challenges. I think it's very good to see that EIB is transforming into a climate bank. The fact that it will go up to 50% of financing for climate-related projects. I think the numbers you mentioned for the energy sector are very encouraging. The investment needs, as you mentioned, in the EU at the level of 400 billion euro is a big number, and certainly Central Eastern Europe is the one which needs additional assistance and support. That's why your engagement in just transition mechanisms, but also in other ways how to support the energy transition, like modernization fund or innovation fund, and as well as using advisory services of EIB, I think is extremely important for the transformation of the energy sector in the region. So thank you so much for this introduction. I would like to now move to the discussants, people who represent different energy-related companies in the region. And I would go to Mr. Juraj Krajcar, the chairman of the board of directors of CEE Energia, which is the distribution company in Slovakia, but part of the E.ON group. Mr. Krajcar, if you could take the floor and do your points, if you could keep it to up to 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So once again, my name is Juraj Krajcar, and I'm representing ZSE Group, which is the biggest distribution and supply company in the Slovakia. The headquarters is located in Bratislava, so we are in the west part of the country. Our experiences with the transformation of the energy is quite huge, because we already got investment, as was mentioned, from Mr. Šefčovič to our distribution grid. And actually, we are executing the first digitalization project, which has a name ECON. And we are already moving from the analog to the digital. And it means that it's create additional space in our distribution network without any increase of the capacity, just to be much more smarter, much more intelligent, and be data-based to create additional capacity to incorporate, for example, additional renewable sources. So we already using financing from the EU project, specifically from PCI part, and we are under the preparation second part of the project, which is making digitalization between the borders. And the first project is between the Czechoslovak border, and the second one, which we call it InGrid, is in between Slovak and Hungarian border. So we are digitizing also the border lines, which means much more smarter distribution of the energy between the CEE countries. Hopefully we will be successful with the funding in InGrid project, and we will develop our distribution network to the let's say much more data-based distribution network, and we will increase possibility to manage distribution network in a different logic, and once again open the distribution network to incorporate additional renewable sources. What we have under the discussion with the representatives of DG Ener is our storage, energy storage project, which is actually under the discussion how we can incorporate energy storage to the CEE energy ecosystem. What is the benefits to have a installed capacity of the energy storage in the CEE countries, and how it can help for the future to once again increase renewable sources or renewable part, and also to make much more stability to the system, and in the end to make energy system in Slovakia much cheaper via enlarging the possibilities to have much more capacity in a respective energy system. So this is in a nutshell from the ZSE group where we are standing and what we are thinking for the future. But definitely this is the last thing. And what is in front of us is definitely hydrogen. How we will come with the new topic, what will be the, let's say, future development of the hydrogen in our CEE countries. So this is very much in future discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krajcar. Obviously, digitization and development of smart grids are necessary component of involving more renewables into the energy system. So it's great you are working on this, as well as energy storage projects, which of course also have a link to batteries and the utilization of batteries. Potentially hydrogen technologies in this process is something which is important for I think for the whole Europe. So thank you for this update from your side. And now I would like to pass the word to Kamil Čermák. He's the chairman of the board of CEE ČEZ ESCO, which is part of the ČEZ group. The Czech energy group is the largest utility company in Central Europe. And Kamil Čermák is also a member of the working group of GLOBSEC on energy transition. I understand that he is not able to connect via video, but hopefully we can hear from you. Kamil, please, can you take the floor? Hello? Hello? Yeah.
Hello?
Now we can hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry for that. So
No
what
problem.
will the Vice Chairman Lilyana, if you can hear me, sorry for technical troubles. As every single corporation of the world, we have some troubles in this ICT today. So sorry for that.
No problem. We can hear you very well. Thank you for joining us.
Digitalization messages sound so great to me. Thank you for
Good.
Hopefully the mobile is already digital, not analog, the analog one. But anyway, seriously, thank you, Vice Chairman Šefčovič and Lilyana, for the positive messages from the Brussels, because of course all of us, especially here in Central Europe, not just in Prague, but in Bratislava, Budapest, Warsaw, definitely we watch very precisely discussion in EU. We watch the press conferences of our prime minister. And final message which you just summarized so great, Maroš, was sounds fantastically, especially for this region. So thank you very much for the support and for the positive development. Let me just, guys, summarize the position of ČEZ Group as one of the most important European utility in energy sector, especially in Central Europe. Definitely the very important message for us is decarbonization. So simply, we already declared that 50% reduction in installed coal capacity already by 2025. That's the decision the board of ČEZ already made. Just let me remind you that we have already 40% of our energy production is from the nukes. And by the way, we are pretty ready to build the new one. Of course, we hear the discussion in EU level about the nuclear power plants, but as a CEZ group, we do consider, and the country as well, we do consider nuclear power plants as an important part of energy mix. By the way, zero emission production, so that's definitely the plan. And we would like to using the combination of nukes and the renewable sources, which will dramatically increase in the CEZ portfolio. We would like to make a commitment for full coal decommissioning by 2050. So definitely, that's an important message, number one, from our side, that we are fully inside to be totally carbon neutral and full coal decommissioning by this deadline. B, definitely we appreciate message about digitalization of our distribution network and sales. And as already Vice Chairman Šefčovič mentioned, our distribution part is fully busy with that. And C, we are pretty increasing the portfolio of renewable sources. We are very much busy with energy services, with what I would call green energy in this country. And I am very proud to announce that till end of this year, we as a CEZ ESCO will finalize and will make a final signature of 2 vice chairmen of the government and 2 CEOs. I mean, Vice Chairman Havlíček from Czech side and Richard Sulík from Slovak side, and Milan Urban and myself. And we will go with the joint venture between CEZ ESCO and Slovenský plynárenský priemysl SPP. And we will increase our exposition in Slovakia in the energy services on the base of joint venture between Czech and Slovak side. So definitely, and part of that is definitely the green energy, renewable sources, e-mobility, accumulation, and hydrogen as well. So these are the main topics and main themes for the green part of CEZ, not just in the Czech Republic and Slovakia, because that's only, according to us, the way how we can go align with the EU and with the practical needs for the Czech and Slovak customers. Because what is the good message? The green energy is not just anymore political declaration or the political target. We do feel a strong demand from our clients. I would definitely stress clients like Skoda Auto, for example, in this country. We are a strategic partner of Skoda Auto for all e-mobility in Czech and Slovakia as well. Komerční banka, as a part of SOŽE, is doing the Czech Green Deal with us for financing the green energy, decentralized energy in Czech and Slovakia. So that's definitely strong brands who are accompanishing us with, let's say, what I would call this euphemism, Czechoslovak way for the Green Deal, how to go ahead in this area as well. And by the way, we very much appreciate also the Just Transition Fund made by you with respect to all discussion about it, because this will definitely help us, and we are fully ready to make the pipeline full of important big projects for these special EU funds dedicated to the theme. So thanks for the optimism we made. We are quite pragmatic in that. We know that this is definitely any ideologism behind that, because the green way in energy is definitely here. In the same time, we do respect the practical need of Czech and Slovak economy. We do respect that we have still some coal portfolio and we can't just get rid of from day to day, but we have very tough plans for that, and we do feel that we are pretty ready to help with our strategies to EU development as well, with all respect to Central European conditions, and we are part of Central Europe as well in EU as well. So that's just the CEZ message. So thank you very much for the attention you made us, and I'm very much looking for the discussion. Thank you, Adel.
Well, thank you, Kamil. Thank you for the update from CEZ and from CEZ ESCO. As you mentioned, the energy mix is very much tilted towards nuclear. I think there is obviously a sensitive discussion in Europe how to treat nuclear, but it is, as you mentioned, zero emission. So in combination with renewables, it is something which moves CEZ towards a green energy producer. And I like your focus on energy services, as we have been discussing also at the EIB, but I think Europe in general, the importance of, for example, increasing or improving energy efficiency of public buildings is one of the big tasks for Europe. And utilizing EPC, the energy performance contracting, is one of the ways how to achieve it. And thank you also, Kamil, for cooperating with the National Development Fund in the Czech Republic on developing a strategy how to do it in Czech Republic and hopefully also in the whole region. So thank you thank you very much for this. And now I'd like to move to a kind of new player in this area, to InoBat, and to give the floor to Marian Bocek, who is co-founder and CEO of InoBat Auto. It is I would say maybe a little disruptive player in this area, but we at GLOBSEC, we like to always create a platform for the new players to give their vision, because especially now in the process of radical transformation, it is important to have these new players who can be part of the creation of a new, more resilient and more competitive European economy. Marian, would you take the floor, please?
Sure. Thank you, Vasil. Thanks for the introduction. As Vasil pointed out, we're hoping to be that fast bullet coming from Central and Eastern Europe, to feed the bazooka that European Commission and the EIB has prepared for the new industries, the new economies. InoBat Auto is an R&D production company specialized on electromobility. We basically are focusing on building the ecosystem that combines, based on the R&D that comes from Silicon Valley, from outside of the traditional European ecosystem, and combines it with the Eastern European or Central European infrastructure base. We're very proud to have strong partners, strong shareholders like ČEZ, as the largest CEE energy utility, one of the top 10 energy companies. So many thanks, Kamil, for the trust and bringing together some of the heavyweights in terms of R&D. InoBat Auto is a joint venture with Wildcat Discovery Technologies, which is one of the leading player in cell chemistry. And we believe that actually, in order to create new industries, you need to learn ways how to scale up ideas, the innovation, the R&D, and what we have seen typically in the States, which has been always sort of ahead of us in terms of new discoveries, also in terms of electromobility. In the US, we didn't see sort of much focus on the infrastructure. So at InoBat Auto, we decided to combine the two. And we believe that this is actually a winning formula where actually you can go from discovery to delivery. And we're currently developing a phase one of basically first of its kind production facility in Europe that is combining R&D, high throughput, artificial intelligence based platform with production link. We hope that the production line will come actually from our partners at Mans. Juraj, the CEO, is on the call. So we very much see the InoBat Auto to be not just a CEE US, but also a nice example of CEE/Germany cooperation, really building on the industrial heritage that Czechoslovakia always had as a former common nation, and combining with the best of Europe in terms of manufacturing, bringing the quality German engineers. And by doing that, we are addressing some of the major challenges in Europe, which are around the supply chain bottlenecks. The COVID-19 crisis showed us that, we have a huge sort of technological sovereignty crisis ahead of us. It showed, the problems with, the Asian suppliers, the disruptions that we saw in the EV battery value chain. So we're trying to address it by actually building, truly European IP company. We also are not ignorant of, the climate change impact. The Corona lockdown showed us that, we're not above Mother Nature. And, the batteries that we're developing will have less cobalt, less sort of active materials coming from problematic areas. We're also looking at the HR aspect, because obviously to promote this type of ideas, you need to be able to build a sort of framework that works both for the scientists and for the traditional industry players like ČEZ, and have these two DNAs work side by side. So this is what we're doing at InoBat Auto. We are actually bringing some top executives to Europe, ex-executives from Tesla, from leading OEMs, people who led electrification at Porsche, BMW, and by doing this, we are addressing the big sort of brain drain that Europe has faced. And with projects like this, we can actually do the brain gain. We actually will have some of the best scientists in the world, to come, to Slovakia, to Central and Eastern Europe, to the EU, use some of the bazookas that are coming to the market to actually build new industries, with European IP, giving the infrastructure support. And more also, last but not least, we're focusing on the digital aspect of InoBat Auto. We have just entered into cooperation with Siemens, where we're developing a so-called digital twin project for InoBat Auto, where we're looking to basically look at smart ways of virtual production, virtual quality controls, and digital, basically ways to leading to optimization of our production line to make sure that, we are really embracing the new digital era in terms of our production to make sure that, we can deliver some of the best customized cells to the market, which is our bread and butter. And, we appreciate the support of the European community. We've been in intense discussions with the EIB, so we hope that the EIB will support us in this groundbreaking ideas. It's sort of first of its kind that you have R&D company from the US actually choosing Slovakia as its base, as its partner, doing a nice example of technological transfer story to the EU, where we can really show that electromobility is a real phenomena. It has a strong substance in Europe, strong support, and InoBat Auto is one of the first pilot projects for this new Green Deal initiative.
Thank you. Thank you, Marian. I think it's very encouraging to see these new companies developing, really European ones in the battery area. Also nice to see that the European Battery Alliance, started by Vice President Šefčovič, inspired these new developments, and that we are not going to be relying in battery production in Europe only on what I would call Asian clones, but also on genuinely European companies like Northvolt and in the future also InoBat. So thank you for this update. And now I would like to move to Tomáš David, the Vice Chairman of the Board of EP Power Europe and Chairman of the Board and CEO of EP Energy. Tomáš, would you take the floor, please?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Vasil. Thank you very much also the other speakers and Vice President Šefčovič, Vice President Pavlova for the introductory words. Highly appreciated, as been already said. We are representing a company which is with a relatively big footprint, currently 8 European member states, mostly actually in the western part of Europe, Germany, UK, Italy, France, big in Slovakia, of course, much smaller than in Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland. And with that, we are already for a couple of years going through this massive transition and transformation, having two parts. One part of our business is infrastructure, transmission networks in gas. That you may know, we are in normal years we are operating Ustream, which is part of the Central Corridor, supplying or transmitting 80 BCM of gas annually in the typical years. In that, you've been mentioning a lot of storage. We've been actually contributing and building new storage facilities. Right now, we are operating close to 5 billion cubic meters of storages. We have been adding recently some new ones in Bavaria. So storing the gas is for quite some time the business which is well understood, and that we are definitely developing quite a lot. Actually interesting also in this area, we've been in Slovakia, we've been testing in one of those storage locations storing hydrogen only. So that has been tested, and the tests went well. We've got real experience with it. We know this is possible. And our storages and the businesses around are ready to contribute into this area. Talking to the hydrogen, it also touches the other parts of the business in the more power production part, where in Germany, in Lausitz area, we are now developing together with the local governments a project that actually storing and usage of the hydrogen in the energy system. So that should be very relevant. You may also know that that we are in the final, I would say, days and weeks of testing our big battery storage in Schwarze Pumpe in Germany, which is 50 megawatts, 50 megawatt hours battery, one of the biggest projects in the European Union. So we are trying to explore all of these routes. Historically, again, we've been testing, and we are actually for many years successfully using storage of the heat energy in the primary heat distribution networks in the Czech Republic, which is working very well. And all of those projects, I will not mention all of them because there is quite a huge list of the things. We currently are operating 0.9 gigawatt of electrical storage in various technologies. In the recent years, we calculate with roughly 1.4 gigawatts of the renewable sources, mainly focus on dispatchable sources, so not intermittent. But of course, we are developing also, we've got a gigawatt scale pipeline in the Western Europe in conventional wind, solar, and less conventional floating PV projects, which we also believe to be one of those who would be testing the technology and showing the trends. So I'm not going to repeat what the other speakers have been saying. I'm glad again for the support, especially to the transition. Let me mention a different part. Of course, being relatively big utility with this significant spread, it also comes with quite a lot of responsibility. We've got quite a lot of the conventional business that's got to be transformed, and this is actually in these days quite a topic where we really need to find a way how the companies, not only the regions where the focus is currently too much, but the companies can contribute and can be supported in changing faster. We've been Vasil discussing some of the difficulties or challenges that we are facing in converting the OCMs into renewable projects, which is quite interesting, quite significant, but so far it has absolutely standard treatment. So we are very much looking forward to any kind of improvements. Doesn't have to be necessarily financially, but even the administrative type of support would be very helpful. And I'm sure that the company of such a scale, we can really contribute to a fast transition if the elements are put together properly. And we are definitely very willing to do so. It's the trend is clear, and we are moving in that direction for quite some time. But we even have much higher ambition. Last thing, just to support it, if I remember correctly, in last 6 years, we have reduced our carbon footprint by 26 million tons annually, which is quite a significant number, and we are definitely willing to go further with that.
Great. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tomáš, for the update. I think you were very diplomatic when you mentioned so-called standard treatment for the projects focused on transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. I know from our discussion that, and I think this is a big issue for the whole transition plan, energy transition plan for Europe, specifically also in Central Eastern Europe, that we have good policy, good intentions, nice strategy, a lot of money available, but the bureaucratic approaches and administrative barriers might be a major problem in achieving all these results. But maybe we can get into this as part of the discussion. Also, I have a request to the other two speakers because I just received a message that Vice President Šefčovič will have to move to the European Parliament session at 12:15. So if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, and so you give also opportunity to Vice President to have some responses to the discussants. So now I'd like to move to Adam Varga, Head of Strategy at MVM. Please, Adam.
All right, thank you. I first and foremost, I would like to thank the opportunity to speak and thank you, Mr. Šefčovič and Ms. Pavlova for the inspiring thoughts and leading keynote speech that they made. Originally, I wanted to address a few things about the Green Deal of the European Union, but now that most of my colleagues here just were detailing their own highlighted green projects, I would like to sum it up for the time being because it will be much shorter. So as you may know or may not know, we just developed a new midterm strategy for the group last year, which is in a way mainstream, being very green, but we are also in a generous position, being quite carbon neutral already. So, but the whole idea of a new strategy is based on basically the renewable production and very strong downstream customer-focused value offering, and that means we have just set a target for us for the whole group to reach a 98% level of carbon neutral production rate by the end of 2025, which this figure at the moment for the whole company is now set at 88%. Now that we have acquired the Matra power plant, which is the last coal-fired power plant or lignite-fired power plant in the country. But this we have by just the end of June, we just finished the formulation of the new vision of this coal-fired power plant, meaning that I'm proud to announce that we have a strong coal phase-out strategy for the group and for the country itself. Now I can perhaps detail a little bit for you. It is set on basically 4 pillars, and one being by the end of 2025, we would like to shut down the majority of the coal-fired units. Only 2 units will be remaining as a strategic reserve, but it will be it will be out of production. It is just a safety reserve, and instead we would like to develop their gas-fired units because we strongly believe that there is no a successful transition into renewable based energy mix without having an adequate level of flexibility of the system. And as we don't have any other ways to have sources of flexibility currently, we need to rely on natural gas in the short term and possibly also in the mid-term. And in addition, we would also like build there waste to energy projects there, and we will also develop there some additional solar facilities. And last but not least, we are going to engage into a CCS technology project there, which will be small, like 50 megawatts, but quite unique in a way that this is going to be the very first one in Hungary for us. And this is the point which brings us to our new hydrogen strategy, which is now currently under development. but this CCES unit will be one of the most inherent pillars of that hydrogen strategy of the group. Other than that, we have already, since early last year, we are already running a hydrogen project at one of our gas storage facilities in Hungary, which is where our results of the projects are quite exciting, and it would most likely be also the part of the future vision of the long-term future vision of our gas storage facilities as well. Now, other than that, by the end of 2025, we are aiming to deploy some 500 megawatts of solar capacities in Hungary, where now we are running quite well on that, because by the end of by the middle of this year, we have already reached 200 megawatts. So we I think that is quite on track for us. These are the major ones, and apart from the major ones on the upstream side, we're also looking into possibilities for geothermal power generation, possible projects and possibilities in Hungary, because as you know, we have quite a good opportunity. We are quite in a good geological situation there within the country to exploit geothermal energy, and we are also experimenting with the battery storage and heat storage projects all around in the country. On the downstream side, however, we are trying. We also have some interesting projects. We are in two Hungarian mid-sized cities. We are rolling out smart grid projects and smart metering projects, and the DSOs. Our power DSO is with other DSOs in Hungary. We are in the middle of discussing the possibility of a DSO level flexibility market, and yeah, on the customer side, we are just focusing on energy efficiency, which is basically pretty much led by the government programs. But we identified a very, very big opportunity to improve the energy efficiency level of the country by just renovating the residential and industrial buildings all around the country. So these are the cornerstones of our green projects for the time being, and I hope that we will be able to achieve our green targets by as the strategies as laid out in our group level strategy.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for the update on MVM. You touched briefly on the controversial issue of the role of gas as a transition fuel.
Exactly.
from coal, but this is obviously for a longer discussion. Anyway, because we are under time pressure, especially for Vice President Šefčovič, I would like to ask Jürgen Ney, as CEO of Manz Group, an important technology player in this area. Jürgen, could you try to squeeze your remarks to 3 minutes? Thank you.
First of all, very happy to participate here. So Manz is a high-tech company, a German public company, also based in Slovakia. I'm today here in Novo Mesto, Nadvarha. We do equipment in the green part for solar modules, and which is more and more important, the battery projects for energy storage. And actually, I was the last 10 years managing director of Slovakia. And this morning, when I reviewed the production, and this afternoon the engineering projects, first time I see on the shop floor only battery machines which are going to European players, battery cell manufacturing machines, a module assembly line, which is going to Southern Europe. So this was totally different in the last years. Everything was going to Asia or to America. So I think it's really good now that the European Union, also the EIB, is supporting the European industry, that we can try to catch up this, to bring those industries back to Europe. We are very engaged in the IPSAI. So in the autumn IPSAI, we are mentioned as a partner by all the European players. I'm very happy to cooperate with Marian, who was speaking before us also. And we hope that we can do a great deal of this work also out of Slovakia, where we also have our R&D department, which is working on battery engineering and battery technology. Our key problem seems to be that the equipment part in the value chain of the battery is really probably the least sexy, and we really face problems for this co-financing of IPSAI topics, where we're still, and I think I speak not only for us, for Mainz, but also for the other equipment manufacturers in Europe, we need to find banks and we need to find support to get additional money. And very often we face very, very tough risk discussions, which we believe our Chinese competitors, they are much more subsidized and have much more easy getting in China, then also to come with their equipment on the European market, where we use the technology and the know-how. And I hope we can turn this now around with the new initiatives and also the EIB changing to a climate bank.
Thank you, Jürgen, also for being very disciplined with the timing. I would like to actually then later in the discussion, and we do want to finish at 12:30, but I will now give the floor to Vice President Šefčovič. But for the other discussants, my question to you will be: what are, if you were to mention, two biggest problems or challenges you are facing in the energy transition in your companies? What those two key areas would be? But now, because I know that Vice President Šefčovič is under a lot of time pressure for the European Parliament, Maroš, would you take the floor and try to also react to some of the presentations of the discussants, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Basil, and sorry for stressing you out, but we are just sitting next to the room of the plenary, and Charles Michel is already answering the question. I hope that he will have rather long answer, so I can provide mine, but I know that my colleague Gio Han, the Commissioner for Budget, is there, so I'm sure that he's a good friend, so he can step in. But I at least should keep my fingers crossed that everything will go fine in another room. But first and foremost, I really would like to say that I'm very much thankful to the organizers for having this tour of Central and Eastern Europe. I think it's very important, not only for us in the European institutions, but I think we need to bring it a little bit more to the general public, because very often here in Brussels you have the impression that the green and digital is very much a part of the Western governments. And now I saw that the governments, but also the companies are very much attached to it, and the projects which been highlighted, and I will come to them in a moment, are of very transformative nature. And we have big companies in very important sectors which has embraced this green, digital, and green transitions, and are making very significant headway. I also want to say that we also have to improve a little bit our, in positive sense, in intelligence of the companies we have in the European Union, because I have to admit that thanks to Mr. Knie, and he's reaching out to the European Commission, we learn a lot about his company, about demands, about the possibilities to really supply the equipment to what I hope will be dozens of gigafactories across the Europe. Because I think what we have to focus on really would be to have very solid and a very solid position in all parts of the value chain if you want to develop our own battery ecosystems, from the raw materials through the equipment, manufacturing of cells, packaging, reuse and recycling, for which we didn't have much time to address it today, but I'm sure there will be occasion in the future. But there we have very good projects in Poland, in Belgium, in Germany. So we really are having, I would say, good examples for all parts of value chain. And I think and this applies to all of the interventions. And I would like you, if you be so kind, and maybe Vasil, under the GLOBSEC umbrella, you can summarize it. I would say that major challenges, reservations, what you really need from the European institutions to improve or to less complicate. I'm not only responsible for Battery Alliance, but also for reducing administrative burden. And I know that this is really the highlight of the German presidency. So how we can cut the red tape or make the things easier for you, and how to make the infrastructural projects really taking off much faster than before. That's clearly the priority, not only of the European Commission, but also of the presidency. And I think we can definitely, and we should use that opportunity. So what Mr. Knie said about the co-financing, about the different pressures, I think it would be good, I'm sure for Lilyana, but also for myself, to know how we can deal with that issue, how we can really promote good European technology. To Mr. Varga, very impressive story about shutting down the coal power plants. As you know, I started 3 years ago this coal platform, because for me it was quite clear that if you want to have a public opinion with us, you just simply have to address this very issue. The people who are working in coal mines, in coal power plants, we are not only shutting them down without any prospects for the future, that we are ready to invest, to transform, to create new business opportunities, to retrain the people, and to use, I would say, the skills they have for the project of the future. And therefore, I very much appreciate that the transition towards hydrogen, towards storing the energy, towards making it more digital, because I think this would be really the milestones which would help us to cross into the new territories. I think Mr. Bocek and Mr. David have been talking about being the fast bullet in European bazooka. We definitely love that comparison, and I think the R&D, the European support for researchers, for innovative companies, and combination of the artificial intelligence, developing these production lines here in Europe, and going for that new technologies, which I have to say, and I'm learning how developed they are, especially in our part of Europe, if it comes to hydrogen, and all that experience we gathered over the years with the gas transit and gas storing, I think are very important and will be very, very, very crucial for the future. I haven't referred to it in my introductory remarks, but I'm sure that you are aware that in October we want to come up with a new regulation on batteries, and all the aspects which I was referring to in my initial interventions would be reflected in this new regulation for batteries. We just simply would be aiming sky high, meaning that we want to make sure that the regulation will provide for making sure that the greenest, most sustainable batteries in the world would be manufactured in Europe. So that would be the ambition level. That would be the framework within which we would develop the new standards, which I know are very important for this new ecosystem which is being developed for the batteries manufacturing and batteries production, because I think that it's quite clear that if it comes to environmental policies, we just simply want to be really global leader, and this applies to all sectors. And the first one which would have the, I would say, proper standards for that would be really the sector of the batteries. I attended quite impressive conference a few days ago in my home country on how to apply this European hydrogen strategy locally in my country, but there have been also a lot of interventions from other parts of Central and Eastern Europe, and that, I would say, decisiveness were the entrepreneurs who've been for decades and decades working in energy intensive industries, be it chemical industry or steel production, that they are ready to go for the green steel. And we know that it costs the money. I mean, we did our assessment that to transform the traditional steel power plant from the current technology to the green steel technology would cost between 100 to 200 million euros. It's a lot of money, but I was just talking about the trillions something like 1 hour ago, and I think what would be very important for our also industry leaders, or as we call them in Slovakia, industry captains, to really develop the good projects, and also to point to us where you feel that this standard treatment, as Mr. David has mentioned, is really making this transition difficult. I mean, let's have a look at it, because there is really goodwill, there is a strong political framework being created for working on making sure that we create conducive environment and good conditions for this very important transition. And the first two intervenants, Mr. Krajcar from Západoslovenská energetika and our colleague from Czech, that's again some of the projects for which we are very proud, because to have that simple logic with which Mr. Krajcar described, to use the digital means to increase the capacity without the need to build additional cables or bring additional, I would say, investment into the hardware, but to use the good modern software. It's very important, and I'm very proud that actually it was this project which was, I think, the first which we funded under the Connecting Europe facility for the smart grids. Until then, it was very much about the interconnectors for gas, for electricity, but the smart grids, that was the first project which came from this part of Europe. I think now we would see more and more of this type of the project being funded by the Connecting Europe facility, and therefore I think it's very good to continue in that direction. And all that high percentage rates for decarbonization mentioned by Chess are, I think, very important also for the communication within the European circles, because these are high figures, and we should know about them. We should speak about them simply to see that Central and Eastern Europe is really part of this very important transitional project. So my last words, and Lilyana really made it very easy for me, because she was very precise in highlighting all the possibilities where the funding could come. I was referring to the big figures, but she mentioned Just Transition Fund. She was referring to Innovation and Modernization Fund, which will be filled by the resources coming from the ETS. You see that the price for carbon in Europe went quite high despite the COVID crisis. So I think that at the beginning of the last week, it was around 30 euros per ton. So this is, of course, having additional incentives for the companies to go cleaner, to go greener. So my last suggestions would be, I think it would be good to maybe repeat this discussion, hopefully in physical presence. I would say around October or after October, when these recovery plans are being presented, because that should be the strategy of each member states, how they want to embrace the challenge, how they want to use this massive financial resources, and then how the strategies would be underpinned by this modernizing, forward-looking, future-oriented projects. And there, I think it would be good to have such, I would say, even longer seminar where we can compare the notes, see the projects, and you can tell us what are the issues which you feel we need to correct to make it easier for you, and what are the things that we have to do together on European, national, regional, and of course business level to make sure that we would use all that investments very efficiently and in a way that it would be good news for your customers, for the environment, and of course for the overarching goals I was referring to at the beginning. So if you allow me, I really would like to thank you for inviting me for this idea, and also to apologize that I would have to leave now, because I just simply need to go to this much bigger room across the hall and take part in the concluding parts of the discussions on this new budget and the next generation EU instrument. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Maroš. Excellent ideas, excellent summary of the key points, but also ideas how we follow up on this discussion. What I would suggest, because we also promised to the participants that we would finish around this time, but what I would suggest, if you don't mind, and also for you and Lilyana, that at the GLOBSEC, we would do a summary of some of these important energy transformation projects and activities which are happening, not only in the countries we mentioned or which are here, but also Poland, certainly Bulgaria, Romania, other parts of Central Eastern Europe. Because as you mentioned, there is probably a lack of understanding how much is already happening in Central Eastern Europe. But also we would send out to these companies a questionnaire, basically asking a simple question: what are the key challenges you are facing in utilizing those resources which are already deployed or will be deployed in the future? As you mentioned, what are the red lines, or what are the so-called standard treatment barriers which hamper development and transition? So we would summarize it on the GLOBSEC, send to you if you don't mind, Mr. Vice President, also to Vice President Lilyana, and try to follow up on the discussion today, but also continue presenting these issues in Brussels. And then, of course, for the physical discussion, we hope that many of us will be able to meet during the Tatra Summit, which GLOBSEC will be organizing during October 9-10. And we will invite certainly members of the Energy Transition Group, which will be also an opportunity to have a discussion on these issues. And we will have Ministers of Finance as well as Ministers of Economy from V4+, most probably also Ministers of Finance of Germany and France. So it will be a good opportunity to also look at the recovery plans, what are the intentions, what are the strategies, and how energy fits into this. So this is what I would suggest from our side. And thank you so much, Maroš, for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm running. See you.
Just by the tough crowd. And have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. For everybody else, I would like to give the floor to Lilyana for any words before she has to depart herself for other meetings. And then maybe just a few concluding things among ourselves. Lilyana, do you have any words for us before you have to depart for other meetings and flights?
Thanks a lot, Fazio. Yes, indeed, there are still a lot of discussions ahead of us, I'm sure. Thanks to all our participants in the discussions and the shared opinions. I think it's really great to have so many familiar faces, so many friends around our virtual table. So my first wish is really next time we meet in person. And one recommendation, Vasil, maybe to you, to the whole GLOBSEC team, please next time let's have more gender balance and the only women in the panel. I really hope next time we have more women in the panel, but not only in the panel. Let's hope that we have more women leaders in the sector as well, driving this driving force. But speaking on that, I really do believe that today's discussion shows something very important, which was already reconfirmed at the very high European leaders level at the Council, that the time of grant funding has passed. I mean, now we should not rely anymore on grants. It is not enough. We can't rely only on grants because I mean they are not enough, and we have to mobilize funding on the capital markets, the private funding, and we have to ensure the blending really is the best way forward. So my concluding remarks should be really now having so great projects, opportunities, private sector funding, us international financing institutions there, together with of course the European Commission and the grant funding available, really have the best opportunity of blending those sources and really make best use of it, but based on the really financial instruments. Really is an opportunity ahead of us on which we have to go ahead. Second remark is our region, the CEE region. Amazing opportunities like InoBat. I hope really so much becoming not only our our new client, not only as a client of the bank, but our rising star in the region, because I also believe that this part of Europe has a great potential, and we just really need to unlock that potential. Really, the crisis show that our dependence on external continents and markets should really once again push us to concentrate all our efforts and to develop capacities here in our continent. And really, CEE region has this potential, human capital potential, and we really need just to unlock it and to develop it and to invest in that potential. And we have plenty of opportunities. And last but not least, discussing the European Green Deal, the Climate Bank, and something again on which I'm personally responsible in the bank is the transport. The transport lending policy of the bank is something on which we are now working, and the transport lending policy of the bank is to be revised completely, to be fully aligned with the European Green Deal commitments, also to be Paris aligned. So this is a very important discussion ahead of us in the next month. So this is another opportunity for all of us to discuss how to transform our transport sector investments and our really transport infrastructure, but transport sector as well, to become sustainable and resilient, but at the same time green, digital, safe, and clean, of course. So this is the challenge ahead of us, and also we need again to be together in the process, discussing the challenges and discussing the opportunities, and also new technologies like hydrogen. This is one of the one important elements in the sustainable alternatives in the transport fuels, for example. So again, plenty of opportunities ahead of us. So once again, thank you very much for this interesting discussion, and hope next time meeting you all in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lilyana. Thank you for joining us. I promise that next time we'll have more diversity, not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of the countries, to engage more countries from Central Eastern Europe and more companies. And as you mentioned, it's really important in terms of decreasing the amount of grants, developing projects which would be commercial projects, which could use financial instruments and private-public type of mix of funding and blending. So thank you so much for participating, and good luck today. Have a nice day.
Good luck to you. Have a nice day to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. And for all of us remaining participants, discussants, first of all, I would like to thank you on behalf of the of GLOBSEC for joining us for this webinar. I hope it was useful for you to hear from European level, from the two vice presidents, but also hopefully to hear from each other, because at the end of the day, we are part of the family of Central Eastern Europe, and working together both on the business side, but also being kind of united within this special region, special part of Europe. What I would suggest in terms of the follow-up is, as I already mentioned, we would like to reach out to you with a kind of questionnaire, which would have two parts. One is a brief summary from your companies about what are the directions for your strategic transition in terms of moving towards clean energy, clean, but also resilient and smart energy production or distribution. And the second part would focus on what are the key impediments, what are the problems we are facing in this area, in this process of transition, and what could be done, especially from the European, but also from the national level. And based on this, we would then develop a paper or a letter which we would send to Vice President Šefčovič, as well as to Lilyana Pavlova and to EIB, but potentially to other institutions as well at the European level. So we do strongly believe at the GLOBSEC that the voice of Central Europe should be heard at the European level, and that energy is certainly one of those areas which are critical for the region, critical for Europe. And we would like to work with you to make sure that this voice is clearly defined and also presented in Brussels and other places. So if you agree, I would then go towards conclusion. But first of all, I would like to give any of you opportunity to say anything before we finish? Anybody ready for any final words? If not, then again, thank you so much. We will also send you soon invitations for the Tatra Summit and for the GLOBSEC Forum in early October. So if you could already mark in your calendars from October 7 to 9 or 10, there will be 2 events next to each other. One in Bratislava, this is October 7, 8, and then a second one, Tatra Summit in the mountains, 9, 10. We will inform you about the structure of the event and also how we would use the energy discussion as part of the agenda for the 2 events, but most probably and particularly for the Tatra Summit, October 9, 10, where we very much hope that you'll be able to join us. So thank you again. Have a great day, and we will stay in touch with you, and we will follow up with the questionnaire as I just described. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.